welcome to No Broken Legs. It is a Tragedy Tuesday here. I am Evan Belfiore. Joining me on the phone is Jimmy. Jimmy Champ, how are you today?
Oh man, it's rough to be a Browns fan once again right now, man. That was a rough Sunday, a lot to process yesterday, but we're gonna get through it here talking about it today.
Yeah, I saw that game in person, and I just needed a day to recuperate from that shit show. So there's so much to get to, not just this week, but the Browns have a game coming up on Thursday, so we'll look back and we will look forward. The first thing that stood out to me in this game, Jimmy, was the Browns get the opening kickoff. Both tackles are out. Treader's dealing with a knee injury. They've struggled with pass blocking and getting the pass game going all year, and they just come out empty set and they go pass happy. I think that was a bad plan. What do you think of Stefanski's first two drives there?
I think the last 2 weeks his scripted plays have been too much of I know what you know, what I know, what you know, what I know gamesmanship.
Yeah.
Yes, the Browns, what you do well is run the ball the last 2 weeks, but the Cardinals as well. The Cardinals have been not good against the run this year. So, of course, their game plan was going to be to scheme to stop you from running the ball, but I don't think they could have stopped you from running the ball. I don't understand starting out a game that you really needed to win against another elite NFL team and starting out doing what you don't do well because you think they might be able to stop what you do well. Try to run the ball. If they happen to stop you on that first series, make adjustments off of that. But every player on the Cardinals defense had to take a sigh of relief when the Browns came out empty package with their third and fourth tackles. Well, actually, their fourth and fifth tackles because their third tackle was on the IR. So,
Yeah.
You could just see it on the very first pass play. The Cardinals were super excited. The last thing they wanted to do was try to stop Kareem Hunt 30 times in that football game. They wanted you to come out and throw the ball, and you did because you thought they were going to come out and try to stop you from running. You should have went what your strength was against their weakness. If they happened to scheme around that weakness, so be it, good coaching on their part. But I don't think they would have been able to do it, and I think you really put the team in a hole by trying to be too cute with the scripted plays.
To further your point on Stefanski's scripted plays, they've scored 18 points in the first quarter this season.
Yeah.
That's a field goal for each first quarter, which is just really bad. And while we were in the dog pound, when the Browns came out throwing, we're all just kind of looking at each other like, the fuck are they doing? And it was one of those situations where, again, this is the second time this year that I'm comparing Kevin Stefanski to Andy Reid, but it was Andy Reid-esque. And I don't like that. I think you're 100% right with he's trying to outsmart what they outsmarted him from outsmarting. It's like, just show up and run the ball and make them stop it.
Yeah.
I don't understand why Felton and Dearness Johnson, two guys that have shown flashes when they've had opportunities, why aren't we just doing next man up with those two? They look like they can give Hunt what you would normally give Chubb and then use those two for what Hunt normally gets. Those two were barely on the field. I just didn't understand that.
Me either. It didn't make sense. You could just tell. You could tell the Cardinals felt like from the first offensive play for the Cleveland Browns that they were winning because the Browns were already playing into what they do well. They cover pass really well. They blitz really well. They attack pass plays, and they didn't have to worry about the run. I mean, to go empty set like that was crazy town. I just think he was just trying to be too cute and outsmart them instead of just doing what they do best as a team. They completely got away from their team identity in this game, and it showed with their worst loss of the season.
All right, well, I guess we'll talk about the defense next because they came off just a horrific second half against the Chargers where they gave up 5 touchdowns. And they picked right up where they left off, and the Cardinals basically marched up and down the field. What was really concerning was this was the first game that teams were able to actually like run the ball, not just with a quarterback, but actually get their running back yards. That was very concerning, Jimmy.
Yeah, defensively, it did not look good. I mean, I want to preface this with Arizona is a really good offense. With the exception of the Browns game, the Minnesota Vikings are averaging around 30 points a game. So the Vikings were a good offense as well, and you slowed down Minnesota. But the individual performances and the scheme against the Cardinals were not a team that's looking to have an AFC championship ceiling window, whatever you want to call it. Something we talked about, Joe Woods, one of the biggest pros about Joe Woods is that he doesn't necessarily have a set defense. It's Tampa 2 and then something off of it. It's 3-4 something off of it. Joe Woods individualizes each game plan based on his opponent. And I think maybe he needs to stop that, and he needs to figure out what his defense does good and do more of that, because this is the second week in a row where good defensive backs, guys that have been good defensive backs in the NFL, have been absolutely lost on touchdown passes by the opposing team. Now, it's two good offenses. They're going to get guys open, but these weren't Kyler throwing balls into tight windows just like last week.
They're losing guys in coverage.
Troy Hill is 10 foot in front of the wide receiver, I'm assuming because he thought he had safety help over the top, and instead it's a touchdown in the back of the end zone. I don't know where John Johnson was for the first 15 yards of the DeAndre Hopkins play, but I know he was willing to help drag him into the end zone, trying to rip the ball out when he should have been stopped at the 5. Not that that would have probably mattered. They still probably would have scored anyway, but it was just a really bad look. But it's almost like every series, there is a play where down in distance, the defense should know what's happening and they look lost. And I wonder if it's because the game plans are getting too specific to the opponent and it's just too much information right now for a reeling defense.
Do you think Delpit knows where he's supposed to be in coverage on a regular basis?
No.
Do you think Mac knows where he's supposed to be in coverage on a regular basis?
No, absolutely not.
I think they're just getting nothing really out of those two positions on the field, and it's killing them on these plays. I mean, it's happening once or twice a game, and you can't give up touchdowns where there should be safety help, and the safety just goes and runs somewhere else. Like that just can't keep happening, or this season's going to be over in a hurry. I said we should be patient with the defense. 2 weeks ago, everybody was singing Joe Woods' praises, and then 2 weeks before that, everybody wanted him fired. Now we're back on the fired side. I don't even know what to say at this point. Denver isn't very good on offense, so we would hope the Browns could recover, but at this point, I don't know what to expect from the defense moving forward. They just look like they're lost out there a lot of the time, and to see Arizona be able to even run the ball successfully on them was frustrating, because Kyler didn't really beat him with his legs. They were able to just run the ball with running backs and throw the ball. Like they didn't really make him work, it seemed at all.
Yeah, I agree. I do want to say I think Denzel did a pretty good job in coverage most of the day on DeAndre Hopkins. When he was locked up with Hopkins, it was nice to see Denzel Ward play like a 1. That was good. I think he did a good job. It's always a battle when you've got Nuke Hopkins, and I think Denzel did a good job. Defensively, they almost seem like the 2 weeks they played without Anthony Walker, they played better. If he's fully healthy, he is very much underperforming to what was expected of him. And the same thing with Troy Hill and John Johnson. They are getting beat in individual situations, and it's making Joe Woods' defensive scheme look even worse than what it is. They have got to get the defense figured out. Now, as I said all along, like there are guys on ESPN, NFL Network, saying the Browns are the most underperforming team in the NFL. They're saying it's a 6-0 talent with a 3-3 record. I hardly believe when any of them were predicting out their season that they had the Browns beating the Chiefs, the Vikings, the Chargers, and the Cardinals in the stretch of the season. I had them at 4-2. I did not. I thought they would actually lose to the Vikings. They handled that game. I didn't expect the Cardinals to be this good. So they're at 3-3. I think the next 2 weeks are big tests. It looks like there's a chance Teddy Bridgewater, the Vikings are actually going to sit Teddy Bridgewater, and Drew Lock may play. We've made Drew Lock look good in the past with a bad defense. If Drew Lock looks good, I mean Teddy hasn't even looked good the last couple weeks.
No.
If you make Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater look good this week, changes might have to be made either in the scheme or the coaching staff to get that defense to play better because they've looked bad, but they have played some premier offenses in the league. Baltimore and maybe Green Bay are the only two premier offenses that you have left on the schedule. So you've got to start stacking wins. But, as beat up as the offense is, JOK is going to miss some time, but he's the only main injury on the defense. Most of your depth and most of your starters are playing on the defensive side of the ball. They've got to quit looking lost. I mean, teams are converting 3rd and longs with ease. That has to stop. They have to get the defense figured out. But like I said, it just looks like guys who are individually very good players in this league just look like they don't know where the guy next to them is going to be, which makes it harder for them to do their job. They've got to get that tightened up. They got to figure that out. I do think it would help by bringing some more pressure. There really just hasn't been a lot of pressure brought. I think they can't just keep counting on Clowney and Garrett to cause pressure. They need to create some plus situations for the defense, try to get the ball out of quarterbacks' hands a little faster because clearly they can't hold up in coverage right now. So there are definitely issues and problems, whether it's the scheme, the coaching, or the individual performance. They've kind of hit the trifecta of badness on the defensive side of the ball.
So let's go ahead and talk about the injuries because the Browns injury report is ridiculous. Kareem Hunt's going to miss a couple of weeks with his calf injury. Owusu Koromoa is going to miss a couple of weeks as well. Right now, the Browns are looking for a second opinion on Baker Mayfield's shoulder, which tells me that the first opinion said, no, he can't play on Thursday.
Yep.
We don't know if Chubb will be able to play. Landry, OBJ, Conklin, Wills. Everybody's sort of up in the air at this point because of such a quick turnaround. Jimmy, there's a pretty high possibility that the Browns might just be in the middle of a season from hell. It might be Cleveland instead of it's obviously not Baltimore. They've been able to get by without the running. They had running back injuries in some other places, but right now Cleveland's just injured everywhere.
Yeah, they've just for what they're schematically for what they want to do on the offensive side of the ball, they've got injuries at the worst spots, right? Your tackles, your main running back, your chain moving wide receiver, they're just beat up. And, their swing tackle, the guy that was on the roster to fill in if Wills or Conklin was hurt, he's on the IR too. So, the depth on the offensive line is quickly becoming an issue. We don't know what's wrong with Baker. I mean, that interception he threw was horrible. The 2 fumbles, he should have had better ball control, ball awareness. He also threw some absolute dimes in that game. There's a 2-play sequence I want to talk about at some point with the offense, but as far as the injuries go, yeah, this season could get real bad real quick. Like this could be bad. This could be a really bad season for the Cleveland Browns. If these injuries continue to pile up, man, it could get real bad real quick.
Well, we can get into what were the plays, because I thought Baker had a really nice throw in the first quarter on a broken play. Him and OBJ seemed to be on the same page for a change, and they had a nice first down there. Now, that drive ended up getting pulled back because of a holding call on third down, which I'm just people that are complaining about the refs, like that was a hold. Ward's 2 pass interferences, those were pass interferences.
Yeah.
The 2 defensive penalties on, I forget who it was, the linebacker.
The roughing the passers, those were a pretty bad call.
First one was a pretty bad call with the push. That seemed shitty because he didn't even go down. The second one where he hit his helmet, I mean, they're going to call that. You hit a quarterback in the head that's not named Baker Mayfield, and you're going to get a personal foul call. So
yeah, well, and that's. I mean, I think that's right.
That's how it is. That's apparently how it goes, because it seemed like Baker took another helmet-to-helmet hit on one of those sacks and just nothing called.
Yeah, not seemed like it. He did, and nothing was called. No, where they had the really nice drive going where we turned the ball over on downs on fourth down. So I want to get into one thing real quick because this was a fight I had to fight with a lot of Browns fans this week. Kevin Stefanski, we know sometimes you listen to the show because we've heard you take our advice, bud. Please continue to not kick field goals in the red zone on fourth and manageable.
Hear,
Keep
hear.
going for it because that's how you win football games. Kicking field goals on 4th and 4 in the red zone is a win for the defense. Normally, it lowers your win probability. But the two plays I want to talk about, they're moving the ball really well. They have a third down play. Baker's first two reads break up. It's an incomplete pass to Austin Hooper. Baker Mayfield threw the ball to the soft spot in the zone where Austin Hooper should have sat down. Austin Hooper continued through the route. If Baker would have thrown the ball to Austin Hooper, it would have either been intercepted or Austin Hooper would have got creamed by the linebacker who was sitting in the hole. Austin tried to spin around, got a hand on the ball, it was incomplete. Made it look like it was Baker's fault. It wasn't. Baker threw the ball where Austin Hooper should have been, and Austin Hooper wasn't there. That play was followed by OBJ dropping another fourth down conversion on a ball that should have been caught. Those are your two highest paid pass catchers. Those are the situations they have to catch the ball. Baker did not look great. He had spots where he looked really bad, spots where he threw some absolute darts, but he has to get trust from his two best, most expensive paid pass catchers by them catching the passes they need to catch. Those two plays can't happen. There never should have been a fourth down because Hooper should have caught that ball and he would have had a chance to get near the end zone. OBJ cannot drop that ball. Certainly not 2 weeks in a row. OBJ did some really good things. I agree with you. They had some nice looks. They were on the right. They looked like they were in sync a little bit, but he can't drop that ball. Like, that's where Baker has to throw that pass. Every time, that's where that pass has to go. But OBJ has to catch it. It's 2 weeks in a row, uncontested, short fourth down. The slant is open. It hits you in your hands. OBJ, please catch the ball.
First, Stefanski going for it on fourth down. Yeah, all of you fans that think kicking a field goal there is going to make a difference in the final outcome of the game, you're dumb. It doesn't. You know how we know? Because we can look back at the last 40 years of football. It's not 1985 anymore. You're not going to beat the Cardinals kicking field goals. You're just not. They put 30-plus points on the board. You don't get to 30 kicking field goals. In terms of OBJ, I'm just so fucking sick of him. In general. Like, I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of every offseason. Everybody's sharing, oh, OBJ finally looks healthy. I got into it. Somebody was complaining on Terry Pluto's Facebook about all the OBJ stories, and somebody responded, well, everybody's talking about him, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but every single OBJ story since he's been a Brown has been the same. It's just, why isn't he better? Oh, it's because he's probably injured. All right, when's he going to be healthy? Probably never. And then it's just this cycle. We just do this over and over again. He is not an elite wide receiver anymore. I'm not even sure he's a number 2 wide receiver anymore. He just doesn't have the consistency to get open. Defenses are no longer shading towards him like they were earlier last year.
No.
They are not showing him the respect, and that's probably why he got open a couple of times this game. But for the most part, I cannot wait for this season to be over. They can release him in the offseason. He has no guaranteed money on his deal, so they can release him for nothing. Turn around, draft one of these endless wide receiver prospects that seems to just appear in the first round and become top flight wide receivers. Well, they've been dicking around with OBJ. There have been, 2-3 dozen wide receivers that are better than him that have been drafted?
Well, 2 or 3 dozen might be a stretch, but there have definitely been some receivers.
What has he done? He's had 2 games that we look at and go, oh, those are big games. OBJ affected those games. And they were against the Jets and the Cowboys. We're at 2.5 seasons now. When does he do something to warrant everybody talking about him and the $16 million he's making?
Hey, I'm with you. I just don't know if there have been 36 wide receivers drafted in the league better than him. I'd have to make a list. Off the top of my head, I can think of about 10. But I agree with you. I have a question for you. Would a really smart general manager at this point, if he couldn't trade OBJ, just cut him?
Wow. So another thing I got into it with some people on Terry Pluto's Facebook was some people just have a negative effect on team structures. Is OBJ one of those people? His teams have never won when he's been on the field. Like, is he just one of those people? I don't know. And I would think that if the Browns front office thinks he's one of those people, then they may as well just cut him and eat the money.
Right. I mean, you're not getting value for the money anyway. So, but I don't know, like, I mean, we know him and Jarvis are tight. I don't know how that affects Landry because Jarvis has looked good when he's been healthy as a Cleveland Brown. So I don't know, but
I mean, it won't happen.
That's true. It wouldn't. You're
They're not
wrong.
just going to cut him.
But I've just thought about that because if you can't because at this point you have to shop him for anything.
Nah,
right?
there's no trade out there for him. If there was a trade out there for him, it would have already been made.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I just wonder, like, if there are front office guys that would make that decision. But yeah, I am over it. You know, I am a stan of OBJ and what his ability should mean to a team, but it just doesn't seem to mean that to a team. At least not this team. Like I said, I can't. Nothing good he did in the game to me overrides that drop on fourth down. Like $16 million. You have to catch that ball. That should have been a touchdown drive. You have to catch that ball. Hooper has to be in the right spot and catch that ball. Like, those are mistakes this team is not good enough to overcome. Not with the injuries they have. Not when they're having a good drive. You can't make those mistakes. And those two guys made those mistakes, and it can't happen. It just can't.
Looking ahead to Thursday night, thankfully they're home. So all of these guys that are injured don't have to worry about travel disrupting their treatment schedules. So that may help them out a little bit. I don't know if Baker Mayfield's going to play. I know Baker Mayfield's going to try to play. But one of the things that is very evident when you go to the game and you're there, watching Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum warm up, it is just so obvious that Keenum's arm strength is about 2/3. Like, he just doesn't have the arm strength, and I'm just thinking about all the throws that they can't even run those plays because he's not going to be able to complete those patterns, and it just fills me with dread, Jimmy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you absolutely have to alter the game plan if Case Keenum is the guy, but he's an accurate thrower, right? You've got it, but you're not going to be able to take any shots, and then Denver's going to be crowding the line of scrimmage. I mean, it could get ugly with Keenum. You know, with Baker, I do want to give him credit. You know, I mean, he made some horrible mistakes in that game. But, man, when he trusts what he's seeing and lets the ball go, it's beautiful. I mean, that throw into the end zone that Peoples-Jones caught, actually both of the throws to Peoples-Jones that were touchdowns, those were two beautiful passes. You couldn't throw them any better. That ball traveled like 65, 70 yards in the air. That's an absolute bomb, man.
Why were there, like, 3 Arizona defenders on the 10-yard line making sure that the 10-yard line was properly covered? I'm not sure what was going on there.
Because they probably don't believe Baker Mayfield has the arm Baker Mayfield has. That would be my honest opinion to that question. No, I agree with you. I mean, Case Keenum's proven, like, he's accurate, but he limits your playbook, right? Like, he can't push the ball downfield the way Baker Mayfield can, the way Kirk Cousins can. That's why he's in the spot where he's in right now. But can he do enough with this offense if they're healthy enough to get a win versus Denver and then let everybody get healthy? I would think so. Personally, I would rather see Baker play if he's healthy enough and play well and build a little bit of momentum going into this, you know, the half bye that you get from playing on Thursday night. Man, but I agree with you. There's no doubt that Baker Mayfield is at least has more of an arm than Case Keenum. But like I said, as we talked about, Baker just needs to trust what he's seeing. He's getting himself in trouble with all the pumping and the double clutching because I just don't think he trusts the line is holding up and trusts that his receivers are where they're supposed to be. So whatever that first read is that he's looking at that he's pumping and clutching on, I'd like to see him just let go of that ball and see what happens and maybe gain some more trust. Maybe, you know, as much as we don't like him, Baker does like him. Maybe Higgins needs to be in on every route. Maybe he does. Just let him pepper Rashard Higgins with throws. I don't know. But you've got to get Baker's confidence up a little bit. But like I said, the drives that they were playing with confidence, ended in a fumble and a turnover on downs. So
Yeah.
that's a problem.
So let's end up here on a more positive note. There's a saying in the Reddit investing community: when in doubt, zoom out. So we had talked last week, and we talk pretty regularly about expectations, and we had both lowered our expectations for the Browns this season, and we thought there were a lot of injuries, and we sort of saw this coming. We both took Arizona in our picks. I do think it's important to remember that the Cleveland Browns during the Baker Mayfield era of a little more than 3 seasons have won as many games as they won from 2010 to the last year before they drafted Baker.
Yeah, no, absolutely,
And
absolutely. And
they went 1-31, and then they drafted Baker Mayfield, and they started with Hugh Jackson, and they were about to hire Freddie Kitchens. And it's just I'm still amazed that the floor of this team, even with all of the problems that they're dealing with, still looks like 8, 9, maybe 10 wins, and like that's their floor. And I'm
yeah,
just still I'm very happy about that, and I think it's important that we look at the growth that the franchise has made, and that they're no longer a laughing stock. And even if this season goes wrong, they're going to be really poised next year to make a really big leap that we maybe expected them to make this year. Maybe it's just like 2 years ago where we're just off a year.
yeah, and I still think like so. Here's something I think like I still think healthy doing what they do well. If a fumble goes their way, I mean, how many times did Kyler Murray put the ball on the ground
Yeah,
and
two
there
or
weren't
three.
Browns players? There weren't Browns players around to jump on it. But I still think if they get healthy and things go, a bounce that's an interception becomes an incomplete pass and a fumble gets recovered by us instead of the other team, I still think there is a 1 or 2 playoff win window ceiling for this team this year. But what I still want to say is I feel like there was nothing wrong with thinking the Cleveland Browns could go to the Super Bowl this year. But as a fan base, there were too many people that thought you win the Super Bowl in week 1. Like, because here's the thing: as beat up as they are, they still may very well be 8-3 when they play the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, if they come
I
out and
believe that.
they can scrap out a win here against Denver with all the injuries, and then maybe get a couple of guys back and come out and beat Pittsburgh, everybody will calm down and everybody will be happy again. But they got to get by this game on Thursday, and with how many injuries they have, it's going to be tough. It's just going to be tough.
Yeah, this is a game where hopefully, maybe with the amount of injuries and the short turnaround, maybe Kevin Stefanski doesn't outthink himself. Maybe he looks at what can we do well with what we have and get it right. And maybe Joe Woods doesn't have enough time to try to put in some kind of personalized game plan, and they stick with some kind of base defense and make little moves off of it, bring a little pressure, and get this win against Denver. I think it's more than possible. I think it's probably probable. I haven't looked at a line yet. I would imagine
It was
Cleveland's
three and a
favorite.
half.
Yeah, I was going to say Cleveland's going to get the home 3, which means the smart people think the Browns are going to win this game too. But this is a big game. Like, this is a big game for Kevin Stefanski, right? I believe this was his first time losing back-to-back games.
Yes.
So he needs to stop it here. Let's not lose 3 in a row. And the 2 games you lost are two of the best teams in the league. Like, if you look at the record of the 3 teams you've lost against, they've beaten a whole lot of other teams too that probably have good aspirations for a good season. So it's okay. Like, it'll be all right. Win this game against Denver, get healthy, stack some wins, and see where you are when you play Baltimore. Because those are the games that matter. The games against Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore are the ones that matter. They need to try to be healthy, but I still think they can stack wins and be at a better point than they are right now when they play Baltimore.
So any final thoughts here on the Browns? We'll have our picks on Thursday afternoon for everybody. We'll obviously start with the Browns game on Thursday night against Denver. But any final thoughts here on this just abysmal performance against Arizona?
Not really. I don't think it bothered us quite as much as some Browns fans because we had an expectation of this was one of the more likely outcomes of this game with how well Arizona was playing, even with the issues they had. And then as soon as Cleveland came out open set, I think there were a whole lot of smart Browns fans that went, "Oh no, oh no."
Well, that was how the dog pound felt.
Yeah, like I think that was where the thought was. But like I said, you know, I projected the Browns at a lot of wins this year, but at this point in the season, I had them projected at 4-2. So 3-3, I'm off by a game. I don't think that game kills them. The loss to the Cardinals in the long run isn't that bad of a loss. The health is the concern. Like you said, I completely agree with what you opened with. If some of these injuries become season-long injuries and you sustain one or two more, this could become a 6 or 7 win season. And then hopefully the front office stays, realizes it was just injuries. We'll be okay. Let's not do anything knee jerk. Let's just get right and we'll be okay. But I think winning this game against Denver and then getting the short, the long week off that you get from playing on Thursday night will get the team right. And I think you're going to see some stacked wins coming up for the Cleveland Browns.
Man, I sure hope so. It's just the idea of just seeing Case Keenum on Thursday night in Denver does not fill me with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like what you said is completely true. I mean, it definitely limits your playbook. He does not have the arm strength of Baker. He does not have the accuracy in the zip downfield, but he is accurate in the short and the mid range. So Kevin Stefanski's worked with him before, so he knows what Case Keenum's limitations and his pluses are. So I think he would be able to make a good 1 or 2 game plan for Case Keenum if he had to do that.
And we talked a couple of weeks ago about Josh Allen's shoulder injury and how it affected his stats. Seeing Baker in a sling makes me think that this time he actually damaged the ligament and not just the labrum.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I don't know how good he'll be. Like, I just don't know how good he can be. We saw the drop-off for Josh Allen was pretty dramatic. So if we see a drop-off like that from what we've seen from Baker, that's just not tenable.
No, not at all.
All right, we'll have more on this on Thursday when we get more clarity on who will and who will not be starting. Hopefully we get a win and we can just watch the taste of that just complete shit show that we saw on Sunday.
Yep.
Jimmy, thanks for joining me today to go over this.
No place else I'd rather be, brother.
All right, we're feeling a little better. We hope you're feeling a little better. For Jimmy Champ, I'm Evan Belfiore, and we are No Broken Legs.
Every action has a repercussion. Lyrical bullets don't make me get the bussin'. Representing for